Good morning, I'm Adam Sexton. We hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Now, it's time to turn to the final 2 months of this presidential primary campaign. On the Republican side, the 2024 contest features what appears to be a runaway frontrunner in former President Donald Trump, with a field of challengers who don't exactly embrace that title of challenger, in the sense that many of them try to avoid any direct confrontation with Trump. One candidate who has not shied away from that conflict in the GOP is former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who is our guest this morning on Close Up. Governor, thanks for being here.
Adam, it's always good to be with you.
So, Governor, you had said you wanted to reevaluate your campaign over the Thanksgiving holiday, but you've already indicated you're forging ahead. Tell us why.
Well, the reason is, first of all, everybody talks about thinning the number of candidates. Well, there's 6 people that have dropped out, and so the dynamics have changed dramatically. And I owe it to the people of New Hampshire to finish strong and to run hard and to make my case, because I am a challenger. I'm a challenger to the status quo. I'm a challenger to the establishment, and I think that's important to New Hampshire. So count me as being all in.
You're a challenger, and I can't think of a single issue on which you're dramatically out of step with the American conservative movement. And yet in this campaign, because of the way you approach Trump, you're treated like a Republican apostate in some ways. So what has that been like? Someone who's been on that side of the conservative movement, on the right side, for so long, now being treated as a kind of pariah in your own party?
Well, I don't consider it that way, first of all. I am a consistent conservative. My record as governor speaks for itself. My national security experience matches anyone else in the race. And so I'm a consistent conservative. That's what America's looking for. Yes, I've been clear about Donald Trump and the risks that he poses to our party. And that might offend some, that might bring up my negatives, but it is critically important that we evaluate it. And so you look at Donald Trump right now, and he talks about having 4 years of retribution, getting even, and looking at the vermin within his enemies. And that really is the new Eugene McCarthy. Eugene McCarthy, who used the powers of government to go after his perceived communists that would be within the government today, and he abused his power.
Today, Senator Joe McCarthy.
Yes,
okay.
Joe McCarthy. And so you look at Donald Trump, and he wants to use his power to go after his political enemies through the Department of Justice, through the IRS. He's made that clear. It's about retribution, and that is the new Joe McCarthy.
You know, right now there are a lot of Republicans who believe that the Justice Department has taken on a kind of political motivation. A lot of these same people, as you're noting, would like to see prosecutions, aggressive prosecutions of Biden and his family once a Republican president is in office. Whether that's warranted or not depends on the family member probably, but we'll see what unfolds with all that. What's the danger, though, of this becoming a permanent feature of American politics, taking a kind of Old Testament eye for an eye approach to the DOJ?
Well, it's risky, it's dangerous, it's un-American. Whenever you look at what Donald Trump is going through, no one wants the Department of Justice to be politicized, or our justice system at the state or federal level. And so let's right the ship. Let's don't strengthen the ship to go after our political enemies and use the same tools that we're criticizing now. And that tit for tat is bad for American politics. It's bad for our future. It's a bad look for our relationship across the globe of standing for the rule of law in our country, foundational to American democracy.
You were an impeachment manager of Bill Clinton many, many years ago, and it's kind of odd to look back now on perjury as a kind of quaint presidential offense. If you had to compare what Clinton did to what the Biden administration is doing now on the southern border, some would argue there's a dereliction of duty there. Obviously, on one side, a clear, if very basic crime, lying under oath, but this idea that the president is not enforcing the borders of the United States. Which president do you believe committed the more serious offense against the nation?
Wow. Well, whenever you're looking at criminal offenses, that crosses a red line, and that justifies an impeachment, articles of impeachment and prosecution. Whenever you're looking at errors and omissions in office, and that's what you're looking at Joe Biden, that has even a greater serious impact on America's strength and on our country and on our national security, but it is a policy and a dereliction of duty that's harder to find than a criminal offense. And so I don't advocate impeachment for a disagreement in policy. That's what elections are about. And no one disagrees with Joe Biden and what he's doing in terms of the border of an eye, and we can remedy it, but it's not something that you go after in terms of disagreements on policy and impeachment.
You helped set up the Department of Homeland Security and dealt with the cartels during the Bush administration. There seems to be an appetite out there among the electorate for a more kind of muscular approach to stopping the pipeline of fentanyl that's being pumped into this country and killing so many people. But obviously Mexican sovereignty is a pretty big sticking point. How do you find a balance on this matter while respecting Mexican sovereignty and at the same time making sure that they don't allow this illicit trade not just to exist but to thrive?
Well, I mean, first of all, no one's more serious about addressing the fentanyl crisis than me. As former head of the DEA, but also in charge of border security during the Bush administration, I understand the risks that are at stake. What you have to do is look at who's actually done that. And so I addressed it with Mexico. We worked with them to dismantle the cartel that existed at that time, the leadership of it. So I know what needs to be done. You can pressure Mexico economically. You can work in partnership with them to make sure you go after the cartel. But the idea of these candidates that we ought to invade Mexico, that we ought to bomb the cartels, that's called an invasion. That is not what we should be doing, and it is unreasonable whenever you're looking at an economic partner that Mexico is to the United States.
You know, do you think the business model has changed, though? You were the head of the DEA, and it seems like in the past this was a very straightforward black market. You know, meet the demand for illicit substances in America, make a lot of money in the process, live that gangster life and all that stuff. If you're killing your customers, it's not a good thing. But now it seems to have changed. You know, death seems to be part of the deal. I looked this up. The American Medical Association says 106,000 overdose deaths in the United States from May of 22 to May of 23. You don't get to that number without somebody wanting that level of death, do you?
Well, they want that level of addiction, and they are willing to accept a lot of death that goes with it. And so that's why you've got to do three things. One, choke off the supply, which means you go after the cartel, reduce the fentanyl that's coming in. I've met with the Manchester police chief. I've addressed the fentanyl issue here, and it's about education. It is about going after the cartel that even impacts this area. And the third part is the treatment side of it and the addiction counseling to move people away from the opioids. And many people go on the street, they'll buy a Percocet pill, it's laced with fentanyl, and they overdose. They're not trying to buy fentanyl, they're trying to buy an opioid to sustain their addiction. And so we've got to do it from every approach. But you cannot minimize the importance of stopping that flow of fentanyl coming in the country, and those responsible, which is the cartel that impacts us at the border, but impacts us in New Hampshire as well. That's where you have to put your emphasis.
Do you think an entity perhaps that wants all of that death could be China?
You know, China, I think, disregards life. I think they could care less. You know, whenever they met with Biden and they agreed to regulate it to a greater extent, I don't trust them. And so the precursor chemicals to fentanyl is coming out of China. It's going to Mexico first. And so here again, Mexico should not allow that be coming into their ports of entry. They can do more. Sure, we want China, but let's don't trust China to regulate this. Let's use a more trusted partner in Mexico and make sure they do their job and that we do our job as well.
Let's move to energy policy. Do you believe the United States needs to decarbonize its economy?
Well, I don't think you need to be in a hurry to do that. You know, we obviously should take climate change seriously. I'm the only one on the debate stage that raised my hand and said it's real. And so that's my approach to it. But we have to be reasonable in terms of our energy needs, and we can produce energy in a much better and environmentally sound way than China can. And so let's produce energy here, and it doesn't have to be totally carbon free, but let's use good environmental techniques as we produce that energy. That we're dependent upon energy for our heating in our homes, for our energy for our businesses, for our economic growth. And if we want jobs, if we want to provide for our family, energy is a key part of that, and we have to use all sources. So you'll see a pro-growth energy policy that is also sensitive to the environment and the concerns about climate change as we impose that.
If you're taking over the White House in 2025, are you going to continue all of these massive wind projects that the Biden administration has initiated? Supposedly we're supposed to get one in the Gulf of Maine.
I'm not a fan of it. Now, I'm not, we're not going to necessarily shut down the private sector from utilizing energy from wind. But we have an Arkansas solar, we have nuclear, we have the fossil fuels, and so we can produce from a variety of those sources, and wind is very big in Iowa. But I think that it shouldn't be forced. It's to be something that the community pushes forward and that the consumers demand.
Before we wrap up here, you mentioned Arkansas. I just want to ask you, your successor, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, what's the deal with this $19,000 lectern? Didn't you leave a podium behind for her? Is this a scandal or not?
Well, anytime you make it on Jimmy Kimmel, it's not a good thing for a governor. But I'll let her address that. It's one of those interesting stories that will get some more airtime down the road, I'm sure.
Keep an eye on Little Rock, I guess. Governor Hutchinson, thank you so much for joining us on Close Up.
Thank you, Adam.